The day the company launched, I got a call from an old friend. "Hey man, you've got a serious leak at your place. You'd better get back here quick. Any later, and the problem might just fix itself." I got it instantly. I rushed home. The living room was empty. I could hear the shower running. On the floor by the bathroom door were two jackets. One was Chloe's beige trench coat. The other was a black men's jacket I didn't recognize. The water shut off. A few seconds later, the door opened. Chloe stood there wrapped in a bathrobe, her hair dripping wet. Behind her was a man, tall, wearing a button-down shirt with the collar open. His hair was wet, too. All three of us froze. Chloe's face flushed red, then went pale. She took a half step forward, trying to block the man from my view. "Eddie." "Ryan? What are you doing home?" Building manager called about a leak. I looked at the man. "And who's this?" The man's eyes darted away, looking anywhere but at me. Chloe jumped in. "This is my cousin. From back home. Just stopped by to see me. The pipe under the sink really was acting up, and he was helping me with it. He got soaked, so he was just rinsing off." Her smile was painfully stiff. I nodded, my eyes scanning the living room. On the coffee table were two wine glasses, both used. In the ashtray was a cigarette, but from expensive brand, I don't smoke. "Your cousin?" I held my hand out to the man. "Chloe's never mentioned you. What's your name?" The man hesitated before shaking my hand. His palm was sweaty. Chase. Chase." I let go of his hand and walked to the coffee table, picking up the cigarette, but fixing pipes with this brand of smokes? You got expensive taste. Chase said nothing. Chloe hurried over. I gave it to him. "Ryan, don't get the wrong idea." "I'm not." I tossed the butt back into the ashtray. "Is the pipe fixed?" "Fixed. All fixed," Chloe said, giving Chase a little push. "'Cause, don't you have that thing you need to get to? You should go. We'll catch up later." Looking like he'd just been granted a pardon, Chase scrambled to grab his black jacket. He didn't dare look at me as he bent over to put on his shoes. Size 11s, maybe 12s with worn-down heels. His keychain had a small, silver dumbbell charm hanging from it. The door clicked shut. It was just the two of us. Chloe came over, reaching for my arm. I sidestepped her and walked to the window. A moment later, Chase exited the building and got into a white SUV. The engine started, and he drove off. I memorized the license plate. "Ryan, are you mad?" Chloe came up behind me. "He really is my cousin, a distant one. You just don't remember him." "Right, a distant one." I turned to face her, looking her straight in the eye. "Chloe, my company launched today. I am swamped. I already told the manager about the leak. They'll handle it. I just came back to grab a file." I went in the home office, rummaged through a drawer, and grabbed a random folder. When I came out, she was still standing in the middle of the living room, the belt of her bathrobe cinched tight. "Go to bed early tonight," I said. "I'm going to be working late. Don't wait up." I pulled the door open and left. As the elevator descended, I stared at my own blurry reflection in the polished steel doors. My tie felt too tight. I loosened it. A checklist formed in my mind. Black jacket, size 11 shoes, silver dumbbell keychain, white SUV, license plate number. And the look in Chloe's eyes. It wasn't fear. It was panic. I pulled out my phone and opened a chat with a college buddy I hadn't spoken to in a while. He worked at the DMV. "Hey man, need a favor, kind of urgent. Can you run a plate for me? It's..." After sending it, I walked out of the elevator and got back in my car. I didn't start the engine right away. I just sat there. The image of the two wine glasses on the coffee table was seared into my brain. There was still a little wine left in the bottom, like they'd been interrupted. I picked up my phone again and texted another friend. "Need you to ask around about a guy. Name might be Chase Carter. Drives a white SUV. Plate number is probably in the fitness industry. Be discreet." Message sent. I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat. The team was still waiting for me back at the office. I started the car and pulled out of the parking complex. In the rearview mirror, the light was on in our apartment window. I figured Chloe was probably on the phone right now. But who was she calling? Her cousin, or her mother? I hit the gas and merged into traffic. First, back to the office to finish the song and dance of the launch party. All other debts would be settled later, piece by piece. By the time I got back to the office, the launch party was winding down. A few of the investors were about to leave. I walked right up to them, shaking hands, apologizing. I told them a pipe burst at my house, that the place was a mess. They were understanding, patting me on the shoulder. Family first, Ryan. We can talk details next week. After I saw everyone out, only employees were left cleaning up. My partner, Al, walked over and handed me a cigarette. You good for real? He asked. What's there to be? I lit it. I don't smoke much, but I needed something right then. Your wife called the front desk a few times. Sounded pretty frantic. Yeah, the leak of the house. She was panicking, I said, taking a drag. Al, starting tomorrow, I might have to leave early or work from home sometimes. Got some remodeling to deal with. I got you. This place will be fine. I didn't press. We've been partners for 10 years. He knew when to let things lie. I went back to my office and closed the door. 3 missed calls from Chloe. 2 texts. Ryan, when are you coming home? I'm kind of scared. It was all a misunderstanding, really. Please don't be mad, okay? I stared at the screen for a few seconds, then put the phone face down on the desk without replying. Outside, the city lights began to glow. Today was supposed to have been a good day. My buddy from college texted back. He sent me the vehicle registration info. The owner was Chase Carter. Address was a decent condo complex over in the Cherry Creek neighborhood. He added a line. What did this guy do? Need me to dig deeper? No, this is perfect. Thanks, man. I owe you dinner. I replied. My other friend's message came through a minute later. He had connections all over town. He was fast. Chase Carter, 28. He's a personal trainer at Apex Performance, that high-end gym. Charges a fortune. His main clients are, you know the type, married, wife's in sales or something. Word is he's a real smooth talker, gets way too close with a few of his female clients. The white SUV is his. What's up, Ree? This asshole will give you trouble. Nah, a friend is thinking of hiring a trainer. Just doing some background. Thanks. Apex Performance. I knew the place. It was downtown in the financial district. The annual membership fee was insane. I opened my laptop, Googled Apex Performance, and found their trainer showcase page. On the 3rd page, I found him, Chase Carter. In the photo, he was wearing a skin-tight athletic shirt, muscles bulging, smiling for the camera. His bio read, Elite Trainer, specializing in physical recovery and body sculpting. I screenshotted the page and saved it to a new, encrypted folder on my hard drive. I named the folder Reference 1. The folder was mostly empty, but I had a feeling it was going to fill up fast. I shut down the computer, grabbed my coat, and drove home. While I put the key in the lock, I paused for a second, smoothed the expression on my face, and then pushed the door open. The lights were blazing. Chloe was sitting on the sofa, not watching TV, just sitting. The moment she heard me, she shot to her feet. You're back. Have you eaten? I can heat something up for you. At the office. I slipped on my slippers and hung my coat up. My movement's the same as any other day. She followed me into the living room. Ryan, about today, I have to explain again. Chase really is my aunt's kid. We haven't seen each other in years, and he just showed up asking for a favor. I couldn't just say no. I turned around. A favor for what? She hesitated. He's looking for a job in the city. He wanted to see if I had any connections. We were talking for a while, and he said he was sweaty from walking around, so he asked to use the shower. Then the pipe really did break, and he got even more soaked. Don't overthink this. I'm not. I walked to the water cooler and poured a glass. Looking for a job at my house? And he brought wine. I opened the wine. It was the only bottle we had left. I thought I should be hospitable to family. Her voice was getting strained. Okay. I took a sip of water. Did he find a job? What? Oh, I think. He has a few leads, she said, her eyes flicking away. That's good. I put the glass down. I'm going to shower and get to bed. Got an early start tomorrow. I went into the bedroom to grab my pajamas. She came up from behind and wrapped her arms around me, pressing her cheek against my back. Ryan, you don't believe me, do you? After all these years, you don't know what kind of person I am. I gently pried her hands off and turned around. Chloe, I am exhausted. The company launch was a mess of its own. The leak at home was another. I honestly don't have the energy to think about anything else. Let's just sleep. I went into the bathroom and turned on the faucet. The sound of the water was loud. Standing under the shower head, I closed my eyes. My mind wasn't on Chloe. It was on the license plate number, the gym's website, and a cigarette, but in the ashtray that wasn't mine. When I came out, she was already in bed, her back to my side. I turned off the light and lay down. We didn't speak in the darkness. After a minute, she spoke in a small voice. My mom's coming tomorrow. She said she misses Mia and wants to stay for a few days. Mia was our daughter. She stayed with her grandma during the week for preschool and came home on the weekends. Fine, I said. The next tuition payment for her preschool is due. Remind me to give you the check for your mom when she gets here. Okay, she answered. Soon, I could hear the steady rhythm of her breathing. She was asleep. I lay with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling. Her mother was coming. She was sharp, fiercely protective of her daughter, and had never been my biggest fan. Was Chloe bringing her in because she felt guilty to have backup, or to have her mom feel me out and put out any fires? Probably all three. I shifted slightly. A sliver of light from the street lamp outside cut through a gap in the curtains, drawing a thin line on the floor. I needed to speed this investigation up. The next morning, I was woken up by noises from the kitchen. My mother-in-law was here. It wasn't even 6, and she was already banging around, making coffee and frying up some bacon. When I came out after my shower, she was setting a plate on the table. She gave me a once-over. Ryan, you don't look so good. Stressed out from the new company. It's manageable, Mom. Why'd you get here so early? You should have let me know. I would have picked you up. I pulled out a chair. Don't be silly. I know how to get here, she said, wiping her hands on her apron before sitting down. Is Chloe still sleeping? Look at the time. You spoil her way too much. Just then, Chloe stumbled out of the bedroom, rubbing her eyes. Mom, you're here. If I didn't come, who knows what would happen to this house, her mother said, pouring her a cup of coffee. Chloe told me the pipes were leaking yesterday. You too. One's busy with the company, the other, who knows what you're busy with all day. Neither of you pays any attention to the house. Chloe shot me a nervous glance and looked down at her coffee. It's my fault I've been spread too thin, I said, jumping in. The super is coming to fix it today. Mom, you should stay a while. Help Chloe out a bit. I'm not here to be your housekeeper, she said, her tone shifting. Ryan, I hear the company launch was a big success. You'll be even busier now, won't you? It's good for a man to focus on his career, but don't neglect your family. Chloe's not getting any younger. You can't just leave her home alone with her thoughts all the time. Mom, what are you talking about? Chloe interrupted. Am I wrong? Her mother looked at me. A marriage takes work. If you're never around, who does Chloe have to talk to when things go wrong? If it wasn't for that cousin of hers coming to help yesterday, the place would be completely flooded. I swallowed the bite of bacon in my mouth. So that was the angle. You're right. We're lucky we had her. Cousin, I said, nodding. Chloe, we need to take him out to dinner to say thank you. It's perfect that Mom's here. She can meet him too. It's all family, right? The fork in Chloe's hand paused midair. Her mother was also taken aback for a second, then recovered. A dinner would be nice, but he's a young man, probably very busy, never too busy for a meal. I picked up my phone. Chloe, send me your cousin's contact info. I'll set something up. Chloe's face went pale. He might be out of town on business. Let me ask him first. Fina, make sure you ask. I put down my phone and finished my breakfast in a few quick bites. Mom, take your time. I have to get to the office. It's going to be a long day. I stood up to get my coat. My mother-in-law followed me to the door, lowering her voice. Ryan, Chloe is a simple girl. Sometimes she can be easily fooled. You're her husband. You need to watch out for her. I looked at her and smiled. Don't worry, Mom. I know exactly who I'm dealing with. I left the house and got in my car. I didn't go to the office. I drove to Best Buy first. I found a guy I knew who worked there and bought a few things. A couple of Wi-Fi-enabled pinhole cameras that could connect to my phone. A voice recorder with a long battery life and a sensitive microphone. The guy knew me, so he didn't ask questions. He just said, let me know if you need any help, Ryan. Thanks. Just for home security. You know, in case of burglars. I put the items in a plain black plastic bag. Back in the car, I stashed the bag out of sight. I wasn't going to install them just yet. Not with her mother there. I drove to the office. The morning was a blur of emails and meetings. At noon, I'll drag me out for a quick lunch. That gym you had me look into, Apex Performance. I asked around, Al said, keeping his voice down as he cut into his steak. This Chase guy has a reputation. Not a good one. He preys on wealthy female clients. It's the same old playbook, being overly attentive, taking them out, listening to their problems. Selling training sessions is secondary to developing. You know, the gym's owner looks the other way because the guy brings in a lot of high-spending clients. Is he married? I asked. Yeah, wife's in sales, travels a lot. I heard they have an arrangement. They both do their own thing. I looked at me. Ryan, what the hell is going on? Did this guy mess with you? He might have messed with a friend of mine, I said vaguely. Do you know where he hangs out? He has a few high-end hotels he frequents, takes clients to their pools or 4 in-home sessions. I had someone put a list together. I'll send it to you later. Alpos. Ryan, if you need a hand, just say the word. Don't try to handle this alone. I know. Thanks. That afternoon, Al sent the list. 3 hotels, all in the downtown area or near scenic spots, all very upscale. I logged into Chloe's Amazon account. I knew the password. It was her birthday. She'd never changed it. I scrolled through her purchase history. A few orders from the last couple of months stood out. A men's dress shirt, not my size. 2 bottles of expensive cologne, 1 men's and 1 women's, shipped to her office. And several Groupons for high-end restaurants, all for 2 people. I took screenshots. Then I logged in her travel app. She wouldn't have thought I'd check that. Her flight history showed a short round-trip flight to Boulder last month. She was there and back in the same day. She had told me she was going to a college reunion. Boulder, one of the hotels on AL's list, was there. I saved these screenshots, along with the flight information, to the encrypted folder. I renamed the folder Project Files Backup. As I was getting ready to leave work, I got a text from Chloe. Honey, are you coming home for dinner? Mom made your favorite pot roast. I'll be there. Working late. I shut down my computer and leaned back in my chair. The sky outside was turning gray, like it was about to rain. My phone buzzed. It was a picture from Mia's preschool teacher. My little girl was playing with blocks, smiling from ear to ear. I looked at the photo for a long time before saving it. Then, I opened my contacts and found the number for a lawyer friend of mine. I dialed. Hey Rob, it's Ryan Miller. I need to ask you something. It's about divorce and what happens legally if, during a marriage, one party maliciously transfers assets or conspires with someone else to try and take the other party's assets. And what kind of proof holds up in court? On the other end of the line, Rob's voice turned serious. Ryan, are you in some kind of trouble? Just doing some research for now. If you have time, I'd like to stop by your office tomorrow. Sure. Tomorrow afternoon, I'll be here. After I hung up, raindrops started to hit the window. I picked up the black plastic bag with the cameras, went downstairs, and drove into the evening traffic. The windshield wipers swished back and forth. The road ahead was a blur of hazy lights. I knew, from a moment I decided to collect that first piece of evidence, there was no turning back. I was almost home. I slowed down and turned into our neighborhood. The light in our window was on. It looked warm, but what was behind that warm light? The thought made my blood boil. The smell of pot roast filled the apartment when I got home. My mother-in-law was busy in the kitchen, and Chloe was setting the table. She forced a smile when she saw me. You're home, just in time for dinner. At the table, my mother-in-law did most of the talking. She talked about Mia getting a gold star at preschool, about some relative back home buying a new house, and, eventually, the conversation circled back to me. So, Ryan, how's the company really doing? The money you're making, does it stay in the company's account, or do you take it out? She asked, putting a piece of meat on my plate. Mom, the company is just starting out. Any profit has to be reinvested, I said, looking down at my food. The books are clean. We have an accountant. An accountant? Isn't he your guy? She smiled. I'm not trying to meddle in your finances. I'm just worried about you too. Chloe is so naive. You have to think about her future. I hear a lot of business owners these days don't even keep money in their own names just in case. Chloe gently kicked her mom's leg under the table. You're right, I said, nodding. We should think about that. Once things settle down, I'll have my lawyer look into the best way to structure things. My mother-in-law's eyes lit up. A lawyer? Yes, you need a reliable one. Chloe's uncle knows a great lawyer. No need to bother her uncle. I cut in. I have a friend I've worked with for years. He's trustworthy. She opened her mouth, but didn't push, instead adding more food to my plate. Eat up. You've lost weight. After dinner, my mother-in-law insisted on doing the dishes, shooing Chloe and me out of the kitchen. Chloe pulled me down onto the sofa and leaned against me, resting her head on my shoulder. Ryan, don't take what my mom said to heart. She's just a worrier. I know. I didn't move. You're not still mad at me, are you? No. She was quiet for a moment, her fingers twisting the hem of my shirt. About Chase. I asked him. He said he's really busy lately. The dinner will have to wait. Okay, I replied flatly. She seemed to relax a little, but still looked uneasy. She looked up at me, but my face was blank as I stared at some mindless reality show on TV. After finishing the dishes, her mom came out and made small talk for a while, still trying to probe for details about the company. I gave vague, non-committal answers, only confirming things that were publicly available. At 10, she went to the guest room to sleep. Chloe and I went to our bedroom. She went to shower first. I sat on the edge of the bed, listening to the water run, and silently pulled out my phone. I opened the encrypted folder and went through the new screenshots one more time. The hotel, the flight, the cologne, the shirt, and the detailed list of the 3 hotels from Al, with their addresses and average prices. The shower stopped. I immediately closed the folder, locked the screen, and put the phone on the nightstand. Chloe came out, toweling her hair, wearing a silk nightgown. "Aren't you going to shower?" "In a bit." I stood up to get my pajamas. As I walked past her, she grabbed my arm. Her voice was soft. "Ryan." I stopped and looked at her. "It's been a while since we—" She didn't finish, her cheeks flushing. I patted the back of her hand. "I'm tired. Maybe tomorrow. You should get some sleep." I went into the bathroom and locked the door. I turned on the shower, but didn't take off my clothes. I just leaned against the cold tile wall and stood there for a long time. The cold water on my face helped me think. Her look just now, her actions, was she testing me, trying to appease me, or did she genuinely want to make things right? I wasn't sure. Maybe she wasn't sure either. When I came out, she was in bed, pretending to be asleep. I turned off the light and lay down beside her, leaving a small gap between us. In the dark, I could hear her breathing, which was just a little unsteady. I knew she was awake. I was too. In the middle of the night, I quietly got up and went to the living room. Using the dim light from the street, I surveyed the layout. There was a decorative painting above the TV, the air conditioning vent, the top of the bookshelf, a few other inconspicuous corners. I had a few ideas. When I got back to bed, Chloe had rolled over, her back to me. I closed my eyes and started planning. Where could I put the pinhole cameras so they wouldn't be found but would cover the main areas? The voice recorder could go in my old briefcase or in the car. I also needed to find a way to get something into Chloe's phone or car. But that would require an opportunity, and I couldn't risk tipping her off. Her mother being here was both a complication and a potential opportunity. Her focus was on probing and pressuring me, which might make her less likely to notice small changes around the house. I finally drifted off to a restless sleep just before dawn. I hadn't been asleep long when my alarm went off. My mother-in-law was already up, making breakfast. The next 2 days were deceptively calm. I left early and came home late, saying little. My mother-in-law tried to pry a few more times, but got nothing useful out of me and seemed a bit frustrated. Chloe was on edge, constantly checking her phone, turning away from us whenever she replied to a message. On the 3rd afternoon, Al called me. His tone was strange. "Ryan, that guy you had me look into, Chase. I just heard something. Interesting. Tell me." His wife, Sarah, was on her way home from work yesterday when some guy on a motorcycle tried to snatch her purse. She's okay, but she was really shaken up. The thing is, the bike had no plates, and it seemed like he went straight for her, grabbed it, and took off. Did she call the cops? Yeah, but there were no cameras in the area, so they have nothing to go on. Sarah thinks something's off. She was telling her best friend that she's been looking into Chase's affairs lately, and she suspects he found out and sent someone to scare her. I'll post. Ryan, this might be messier than you think. Your friend should probably be careful. I will be. Thanks, Al. I hung up and walked to the window. Chase's wife was being threatened? If Chase was behind it, then the guy wasn't just a sleazeball. He was reckless. That could be an opening. A desperate man makes more mistakes. That afternoon, I went to my meeting at Rob's law firm. He was an old college friend, a sharp litigator specializing in financial cases, a guy I could trust. I laid out the situation in general terms, without using names, just saying I was facing potential marital and financial issues and wanted to be prepared. Rob listened, then pushed his glasses up. Ryan, if what you suspect is true, this isn't just about infidelity. It could involve the malicious transfer of marital assets. Legally, the at-fault party can receive a smaller share in a divorce. But it all comes down to evidence. What kind of evidence is most effective? Direct proof of an affair, like intimate photos, videos, or explicit text messages. Proof of unusual financial activity, like large transfers to a third party or the unilateral sale of joint assets. Proof of malicious intent, like recordings of them planning to move assets, draft agreements, and so on. Rob looked at me. The evidence has to be obtained legally. Anything gathered illegally might not be admissible in court, and they could even countersue. I understand. One more thing, Rob added. If a third party is involved, and you can prove they colluded with your spouse, you can sue to recover any assets or gifts given to them. But that requires an even stronger chain of evidence. I nodded, taking mental notes of everything he said. When you need me to formally step in, just say the word, Rob said, walking me out and clapping me on the shoulder. I will. Thanks. I didn't go back to the office. I went to the bank and withdrew a not insignificant amount of cash, booking it as company petty cash. Then I drove to the east side of town to the condo complex where Chase lived. Security was lax. I followed a delivery truck into the complex and parked in an out-of-the-way corner. I sat in my car and waited. I waited for almost 2 hours. Around 5, the white SUV pulled in. Chase got out, carrying a gym bag and whistling as he walked into the building. I watched him go inside, noting which floor he seemed to be heading to. Half an hour later, a woman in a business suit, looking exhausted, walked into the complex and entered the same building. That had to be Sarah. I started the car and drove away. When I got home, my mother-in-law had cooked a feast to celebrate Mia coming home for the weekend. Chloe seemed to be in a better mood, video chatting with Mia and laughing. At the dinner table, my mother-in-law started in again. Oh, Ryan, my sister's nephew just graduated with a finance degree. Do you think you could find a position for him at your company? It's always good to have family you can trust. Mom, all our positions are filled right now, and his major might not be the right fit, I said, deflecting. Have him send me his resume. If something opens up, I'll keep him in mind. She wasn't happy, but she dropped it. Mia came home for the weekend. The sound of a child's laughter and noise seemed to clear some of the tension in the house. I took Mia to the amusement park, and Chloe and her mother came along. While we were on the carousel, Mia suddenly pointed at my phone screen. Daddy, I've seen that man before. My heart skipped a beat. The screen showed a message from Al with a picture of Chase training a client at the gym. It was a bit blurry, but he was recognizable. Where did you see him? I asked, keeping my voice as calm as possible. In the big building Mommy goes to, the one with all the dumbbells. Mommy told me to call him Uncle Chase. He bought me ice cream, Mia said, her big eyes wide. The color drained from Chloe's face. My mother-in-law froze, her eyes darting to Chloe. I crouched down and stroked Mia's hair. Oh, he's a friend of Mommy's. You have to be polite next time you see him, okay? Okay. Mia nodded enthusiastically before running off to the slide. I stood up and looked at Chloe. She couldn't meet my eyes, her lips trembling. My mother-in-law cleared her throat, trying to smooth things over. Kids say the darndest things. Chloe, what were you thinking, taking Mia to meet? Random people. Mom, he's just a trainer at the gym. We just ran into him, Chloe stammered. I didn't press her further. I want to play with Mia, but I knew that this piece of evidence, coming unintentionally from my own child's mouth, was more powerful than any photo I could ever take. It was real. It couldn't be faked. And my mother-in-law had heard it. That night, after I put Mia to bed, I walked out of her room. My mother-in-law and Chloe were whispering in the living room. They stopped the moment they saw me. My mother-in-law's expression was grim. She gave me a look, said nothing, and went to the guest room. Chloe sat on the sofa, her fingers clenched around a throw pillow. I walked over, sat down, and turned on the TV. Ryan, she began, her voice cracking. I'm tired. Let's just watch TV. I found a news channel and set the volume to a medium level. She sat beside me in silence for a long time. I wasn't paying any attention to the news. I knew a crack had formed, and it was now spreading through their side. All I needed to do was stay calm and pry that crack open wider until everything was exposed to the light. The weekend ended. I dropped Mia and her grandmother off. The house was quiet and cold again. Monday morning, Chloe tentatively told me she wanted to sign up for yoga class. It was at a studio right next to Apex Performance. Go for it. Exercise is good for you, I said. Let me know if you need money for it. She seemed relieved. As I watched her walk out the door, I knew she and Chase would be seeing each other again soon. and it was time for me to make my next move. I called Al. Find me a good private investigator. Someone reliable, experienced, and discreet. Money is no object. Then, I opened the encrypted folder and created a new document. I titled it Timeline. I started to organize everything, putting all the pieces of information I had into chronological order. It was time to start tightening the net. The private investigator Al recommended was named Mr. Harding. We met in a private room at a quiet cafe. He was in his 50s, with a forgettable face that would blend into any crowd. He didn't say much. I explained the basic situation and what I needed, without mentioning my or Chloe's name. I said I needed to document the interactions between the wife and the fitness trainer, focusing on meeting locations, frequency, and, ideally, photographic or video evidence. Mr. Harding listened, took a sip of his coffee, and nodded. Understood. Surveillance, stick-haute, documentation. I'll start by mapping the target's routines, vehicle, and regular haunts. The footage will be as clear as possible, but obtained legally. No recordings in private spaces. What are your rates? A daily fee, plus basic expenses. Any special equipment or additional costs will be billed as they come up. Half up front, the rest on completion. He named a price. It was fair. I nodded and took the prepared cash envelope out of my briefcase, pushing it across the table. Here's the deposit. I'll text you the target's photo, license plate, address, and place of work. We'll communicate on a separate burner phone. Contact me directly if anything comes up. Got it. Mr. Harding took the money without another word. I'll be in touch when I have something. After meeting with him, I started working on the house. Her mother was gone, and Chloe was now going to her yoga class 3 times a week on a set schedule. That gave me the window I needed. I picked an afternoon when Chloe was at class and went home early. After confirming the house was empty, I retrieved the equipment I'd bought. The installation took time and extreme care. I put one pinhole camera in the slats of the living room air conditioning vent, running the thin wire along a seam and plugging it in behind the unit. It was well hidden and covered most of the living room and the front door. I placed a smaller one among the tangled stems of a large houseplant, aimed directly at the sofa and coffee table. I didn't put any in the bedroom. That was a line I wouldn't cross. I tried a few spots with a voice recorder before sticking it to the inside of a divider in an old briefcase I rarely used. I left the briefcase on the console table by the front door. Chloe would never touch it. When I was done, I double-checked everything to make sure there were no visible signs. I opened the app on my phone to test the remote feed. The picture was clear, and the audio was working. I hid the app inside a folder of useless apps on my phone. Just as I finished cleaning up, my phone rang. It was Chloe. Hey, I'm going out for dinner with some of the girls from my yoga class. I might be back late, so don't wait for me. Okay, don't drink too much, I said in a normal tone. I hung up and checked the camera feed. The living room was empty. Everything looked normal. But I knew things were different now. I drove back to the office. Around 8 that evening, the surveillance app sent a motion-detected notification to my phone. I opened it. Chloe was home. She was alone. She tossed her bag on the sofa, poured a glass of water, and sat there staring at her phone. Then she made a call. She sounded agitated, but the voice recorder was too far away to pick up the words clearly. I turned off the notifications, put my phone face down, and went back to work. The next few days fell into a routine. I went to work, handled company business, and negotiated with potential investors. Chloe went to yoga and her occasional girls' nights. The house was eerily quiet. Our conversations were limited to "dinner's ready, I'm leaving," and "sleep well." Mr. Harding started sending updates to the burner phone, mostly texts and photos. Female target was at Apex Performance Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 3 to 5 p.m. Did not always attend a class. Sometimes just waited in the lounge area and interacted with male target, Chase Carter. Targets entered the downtown Grand Hyatt Hotel together at 7 p.m. on Wednesday. Stayed for approximately 3 hours. Left separately. Have photos of them together in the lobby and entering the elevator at different times. Male target, Chase Carter, was seen with another, older woman, not the primary female target, on Friday afternoon at a cafe. Behavior was intimate. Evidence documented. Female target's vehicle, license plate XXX, was in the underground parking garage of the Cherry Creek condo complex, Chase Carter's residence, for 40 minutes on Monday afternoon. The photos were clear. Some were taken from a distance, but faces and license plates were identifiable. In the pictures with Chase, Chloe looked relaxed, happy even, in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. I looked at the photos with a strange sense of calm, like I was watching a story about someone else. I just saved the images, along with the times and locations, and methodically filed them in my timeline document. The document grew longer and longer. Mia came home for the weekend. The sound of her laughter temporarily broke the oppressive atmosphere in the house. Her grandmother didn't visit. On Sunday evening, after dropping Mia off, I was in the home office organizing some files when Chloe knocked and came in with a glass of milk. Still working? Yeah, got a few things to finish up. I didn't look up. She put the milk on my desk, but didn't leave. Can we talk? I closed my laptop. About what? She sat down in the chair opposite me, twisting her fingers together. Have I done something wrong lately? You seem so cold to me. Have I? I've been busy with work. I am tired. I leaned back in my chair. It's not just that. She looked up at me, her eyes red-rimmed. I feel like you're a million miles away. We weren't like this before. How were we before? I asked. She choked on her words. Chloe, I said, using her full name for the first time. You've been going to the gym a lot. You look good. Her eyes darted away. Just trying to stay in shape. Right. How's that trainer, Chase, working out for you? Her face changed instantly. How did you know his name was Chase? Mia told me. The guy who bought her ice cream. Remember? He's still here. By the way, what's your cousin been up to? Still too busy for that thank you dinner. Her lips started to tremble. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Just wondering, I said, reopening my laptop. If there's nothing else, I have to get back to this. Thanks for the milk. She sat there, frozen, for another minute before slowly getting up and leaving, pulling the door gently shut behind her. I listened to her footsteps fade away, then opened the camera feed on my phone. She was in the living room with the lights off, curled up on the sofa. Her shoulders were shaking. She was crying. I watched for a few seconds, then closed the app. Tears are the most useless thing in the world right now. Another week passed. Mr. Harding sent a crucial update. Targets have arranged to meet tomorrow, Saturday, at 2 p.m. at the Pine Ridge Lodge, a new resort out of town. The location is very private. Rooms must be booked in advance. Do you need me to follow them inside? I replied, follow. Get the room number if possible. The priority is clear evidence of them entering the room together. Be careful. Do not get spotted. Understood. Saturday morning, Chloe told me her yoga class was organizing a day trip to the mountains. She might stay overnight at lodge and come back the next day. Have fun, I said. She gave me a complicated look, but didn't say anything else. She packed a small overnight bag and left. I sat in the living room, the camera feed open on my phone, the TV on some random channel. Around 3 p.m., a message from Mr. Harding came through. No text, just 3 photos. The first, Chloe and Chase walking side by side into the lobby of the Pine Ridge Lodge. The second, a close-up of the check-in desk. Chase was handing over his ID, Chloe standing next to him. The third, the two of them getting into an elevator together. Chase was holding the key card. The room number was visible, 812. The photos were perfectly clear. I stared at my phone for a long time. Then I saved the 3 pictures to the encrypted folder and backed them up to the cloud. The TV was still blaring some loud game show, punctuated by bursts of audience laughter. I turned it off. The silence in the house was deafening. I walked out to the balcony and lit a cigarette. The sky was a brilliant blue. It was a beautiful day. After I finished my cigarette, I went back to the office and opened the timeline document. I typed a new entry on the last line. Date, XX/XX. Saturday afternoon. Chloe Miller and Chase Carter meet at the Pine Ridge Lodge, room 812. Evidence, photos 3. I hit enter. The document saved automatically. It was enough. It was almost time. All these little pieces were enough to paint the whole picture. Now, I just had to decide how to use it and when to reveal it. I picked up my phone and sent a text to my lawyer, Rob. Rob, I think I have everything I need. When are you free next week? We need to talk strategy. Then I called Al. Al, that stuff we talked about, the ownership of Apex Performance and the situation with Chase's wife, Sarah, can you dig a little deeper for me? Specifically, does Chase have any financial weaknesses Any skeletons in his closet? I was just about to call you, Al said, his voice low. That guy is not clean. Besides hitting on clients, he's been secretly selling some kind of imported nutritional supplement at the gym. It's crazy expensive, and the source is shady. I think it might be illegal. The owner knows something's up, but lets it slide because he gets a huge cut. Also, I heard he owes a pretty big gambling debt to some serious people. A gambling debt? I narrow my eyes. Yeah, a friend of a friend mentioned it. The collectors are getting aggressive. That's why he's so desperate for cash. It's not just for show. I see. That's very useful, I said. Keep an eye on it for me, especially any proof related to those supplements. You got it. I hung up and leaned back in my chair. Chase wasn't just a cheater. He was a scumbag. That made things even easier. My mother-in-law hadn't been back since Mia let the cat out of the bag. She'd barely called. She was probably waiting for an explanation from Chloe, or waiting to see how I'd react. I wasn't in a hurry. I was waiting for the perfect moment. A moment when they would all be caught completely off guard, with no room to deny anything. The final negotiations for our first round of funding were scheduled for next week. The main investors were coming in for one last round of due diligence and a final meeting. A lot of people would be in that room. That seemed like a pretty good day for it. I shut down my computer and walked into the living room. The evening sun streamed through the windows, bathing everything in a warm, golden light. This place wouldn't be my home for much longer, but there were some things I was going to take back, starting with my dignity. The funding meeting was set for Wednesday afternoon in our main conference room. On Tuesday night, I did one last review of all my materials. I selected the most damning evidence from the encrypted folder and organized it into a clean, simple PowerPoint presentation, arranged chronologically. Each slide was pure fact. Time, place, photos, key excerpts from audio transcripts, records of suspicious purchases. No emotional language, no personal commentary. It was as cold and objective as an audit report. I made a separate backup of all the raw evidence on a USB drive. Then, I drafted two other documents. One was a draft of a divorce agreement. The terms were harsh, based on Rob's legal advice and the laws for at-fault divorce. The other was a formal, anonymous complaint letter addressed to the State Fitness Licensing Board and the corporate headquarters of Apex Performance, detailing the information about Chase selling unregulated supplements, with copies of the preliminary evidence Al had helped me gather. By the time I finished, it was 2 a.m. I went to the living room and poured a glass of ice water. The camera feed was dark. Chloe wasn't back yet. Her girls' nights were becoming more and more frequent. I finished the water, went back to the office, and slept on the sofa in my clothes. I didn't go to the bedroom. Wednesday morning, I shaved, showered, and put on my best suit. The man in the mirror looked calm, almost too calm. Chloe hadn't come home. She finally walked through the door at 7 a.m., looking startled to see me already up and dressed. You're up early. Big meeting today. I straightened my tie in the mirror. Another girls' night? Oh, yeah. A few of us just got to talking late, so I crashed at a friend's place, she said, her voice raspy with a hangover and guilt. I didn't ask any more questions. I just picked up my briefcase. I'll probably be very late tonight, too. Don't wait up. I left and drove into the morning rush hour. I turned on the car stereo and played some quiet classical music. I got to the office at 9. I was already there. He could tell something was different about me. All set, he asked. All set. I handed him the USB drive. You'll be running this. Follow the order I marked. Don't skip anything. Al took the drive and gave me a firm nod. No questions asked. At 10, the investors started to arrive. 3 different firms, all big names in the industry. We exchanged pleasantries, got them settled in the conference room with coffee and tea. At 10:30, the meeting officially began. As the founder, I started by presenting our company's current status, market projections, and core technology. The data was solid, the logic was clear. I saw a few of the investors nodding in approval. Halfway through my presentation, the conference room door opened quietly. Chloe walked in, dressed professionally, a pleasant smile on her face. She had mentioned wanting to sit in and learn, and I had agreed. Her mother trailed behind her, also dressed up, her eyes scanning the room with a calculating look. I motioned for them to take the empty seats in the back and continued my pitch. My mother-in-law's eyes darted between me and the investors, occasionally leaning over to whisper something to Chloe. Around 11, I was wrapping up my presentation, just before the Q&A and deep dive negotiation phase. I paused, took a sip of water, and looked at Al. He got the signal and clicked the mouse. On the main screen, our company logo faded out, but instead of the next slide with market analysis charts, a new line of text appeared in a bold, black font. A disclosure of personal matters and potential impacts on company operational risk. The room went silent for a beat. The investors exchanged confused glances. The smile froze on Chloe's face. My mother-in-law frowned and sat up straighter. I walked to the front of the room, my tone as steady as if I were delivering a routine business update. Gentlemen, before we proceed, I feel it is my fiduciary duty to disclose a personal situation that could potentially impact the stability of this company. It concerns my wife, Ms. Chloe Miller. I clicked the remote. The first photo flashed on the massive screen. Chloe and Chase Carter walking into the Pine Ridge Lodge, the timestamp clearly visible. I heard a sharp gasp from the back of the room. This is Chase Carter, a trainer at Apex Performance. Not, as my wife has claimed, her cousin. My voice was flat, devoid of emotion. Click. The next slide, a close-up of the hotel check-in. Chase's ID on the counter, Chloe standing beside him. Click. The third slide, the two of them in the elevator. The room key in Chase's hand, number 812, was clearly visible. The room was dead silent. The investors' expressions had shifted from confusion to shock, and then to grim seriousness. These were seasoned professionals. They understood immediately what this was. My mother-in-law's face turned beet red. She shot to her feet. Ryan, what do you think you're doing? You don't air your dirty laundry in public. How could you, in a place like this? I ignored her and kept clicking. The next slides were a timeline, supported by key photos. Meeting at the gym, receipts from the Grand Hyatt, flight records to Boulder that matched a stay at one of the hotels on the list, screenshots of Chloe's Amazon purchases of men's clothing and cologne. With every click, the color drained further from Chloe's face. She shrank in her chair, trembling, unable to look at anyone. My mother-in-law tried to speak again, but one of the lead investors shot her a look that silenced her. In the world of high-stakes business, an issue involving a founder's personal integrity and risk of a messy divorce was far more than just dirty laundry. I clicked to the final slide. It was a transcript of a few key audio recordings, conversations between Chloe and Chase, and between Chloe and her mother, recovered from her phone's cloud backup. The cold text on the screen read, "As soon as he signs the funding papers, I'll file. I should get at least half. Don't worry, Mom. I know what I'm doing with the money. He's not getting off easy. I'm scared he'll find out, Chase. No way, he's an idiot, he trusts me." Seeing her own words on the screen, my mother-in-law collapsed back in her chair as if all the air had been sucked out of her. Her face was ashen. I turned off the presentation and faced the investors. That is the situation. I am in the process of filing for divorce and have already initiated legal measures to mitigate the risk of malicious asset transfer. All evidence has been legally documented and notarized. While this is a personal family matter, I felt it was my obligation to be fully transparent with you all. I sincerely apologize for any disruption this has caused. One of the older investors, a man named Mr. Thompson, spoke after a long pause. Ryan, thank you for your candor. This is unfortunate. We're going to need a moment to discuss this internally. Of course, I nodded. Please take your time. Al, could you show our guest to the break room? I was on his feet instantly. The investors gave me, and then the two women huddled in the back, a complex look before filing out of the room. The door closed. The silence was suffocating. Chloe finally broke down, sobbing. Ryan, did you have to be so cruel? How am I supposed to face anyone ever again? My mother-in-law, recovering her voice, pointed a shaking finger at me. You try to ruin her, to ruin our family. What about Mia? Are you even human? I walked over to the table where they sat and took two documents out of my briefcase, placing them gently on the surface. One was the divorce agreement. The other was a copy of the complaint I was filing against Chase Carter and Apex Performance. Have your lawyer look at the agreement before you sign it. The terms are non-negotiable. My voice was cold as ice now. As for how you're supposed to face people, you should have thought about that before you walked into that hotel room with him. You will not get custody of Mia. I will prove to the court that your behavior and lifestyle are not a suitable environment for a child, I said, looking directly at Chloe. You will get visitation, as stipulated by the law. Then I turned to her mother. Mom, you spent years telling me how I should treat Chloe. So let me teach you something. When you plot against someone, especially someone who isn't a complete idiot, it's best not to leave a paper trail. My mother-in-law's mouth hung open, but no words came out. Her face was a mottled mess of red and white. I have things to finish up here, I said, gathering my belongings. You two can see yourselves out. By the way, I've had the locks changed at the apartment. Your keys won't work anymore. I'll have someone pack up your things and send them to you. With that, I picked up my briefcase and walked out of the conference room. I was waiting in the hallway. He gave me a silent thumbs up. What are they saying? I asked. They're in the break room. They're shocked, but it doesn't sound like they're pulling out, Al whispered. Thompson, the lead guy, told me privately that while your methods were brutal, they were also decisive. By proactively disclosing the risk, you actually made them feel like you're more reliable. At least you won't hide the truth from them on something important. I nodded. Business was like a battlefield. Sometimes brutal honesty was more reassuring than a perfect lie. Keep an eye on things here. I need some air. I went down to the plaza outside our building and lit a cigarette. The sun was bright. My phone vibrated. It was Rob, my lawyer. Ryan, did you just pull the trigger? I just got word that Chase Carter was formally sued by his wife, Sarah. She submitted a mountain of evidence, including materials on those illegal supplements he was selling and records of domestic abuse. I'm hearing the police have gotten involved, too. They're investigating the source of his product. The guy's in deep trouble. Good, I said, exhaling a cloud of smoke. You can officially serve Chloe with the papers now. I've already given her the draft. Consider it done. And the letters to the licensing board and Apex Corporate, send those out, too. Send them. I hung up and finished the cigarette. I looked up at our office building. My company was still there. It had just weathered a storm, but its foundation felt stronger than ever. I knew there was still a long road ahead. Custody battles, the minutiae of asset division, 100 draining and tedious tasks. But the hardest part was over. I dropped the cigarette, but crushed it under my shoe and walked back into the building. The rest of the road had to be walked one step at a time. But this time, the path was clear and my footing was solid. For the next few days, my phone blew up. Chloe's reaction went from devastation to pure rage. The voicemails were a torrent of "You're heartless," "You ruined my life," and "I'll make you regret this." I listened to the first two, then set her number to go straight to voicemail. My mother-in-law tried a different tactic, emotional blackmail. She'd call me, her voice thick with fake tears, begging me to think of our years together, to think of Mia, to not be so merciless. She claimed Chloe knew she was wrong, that it was a moment of weakness. I listened patiently, and when she paused for breath, I asked calmly, Mom, if I had been the one cheating and trying to steal her assets, would you be telling Chloe to forgive my moment of weakness? The line went silent, filled only by her heavy breathing before she hung up. Rob officially served Chloe with the divorce papers. The terms, based on the evidence of her affair and conspiracy to commit fraud, were overwhelmingly in my favor. Of course, she refused to sign. She hired the lawyer her uncle had recommended. In their first communication, her lawyer tried to challenge the validity of my evidence, claiming illegal surveillance and invasion of privacy, and even countersuing that my emotional neglect had led to the breakdown of the marriage. Rob called to update me, his tone amused. Her lawyer's not very good. It's the classic muddy the water strategy. They can't touch us on illegal surveillance. Most of your evidence is from public spaces, financial records, and cloud backups. The only debatable part is the home camera, but since it was in a common area, the living room, and installed to prevent financial harm, a judge is very likely to allow it. As for emotional neglect, let's see them try to prove that. They won't give up that easily, I said. Of course not, especially with the assets. The bigger problem for you right now isn't Chloe, it's her mother. The old lady is calling everyone she knows, try to pull strings and put pressure on you. Rob paused, but the fact that Chase is going down is a huge blow to their case. Chase was indeed going down. His wife Sarah's lawsuit and formal complaint had opened a Pandora's box. The police investigation into his nutritional supplements found they contained banned substances. He was arrested, facing charges of illegal distribution. Apex Performance fired him immediately and issued a public statement distancing themselves from him. But the gym was now facing its own investigation and a PR nightmare. I knew Chloe and her mother had heard the news. With Chase, their potential escape plan, or ally, out of the picture, their position was even weaker. At work, things moved forward surprisingly quickly. Mr. Thompson, the lead investor, took me out for coffee. He was blunt. "Ryan, your disclosure at that meeting was a shock. But in hindsight, identifying and eliminating the founder's biggest potential liability before we invest is actually a good thing. The way you handled it. It was tough, but it was clean. We need partners who can handle a crisis and think clearly." The final funding agreement was adjusted slightly, but the money came through. Al was relieved. He said it was the best possible outcome. At home, I had the locks changed. I hired a trusted cleaning service to come in periodically. Al helped me hire a couple of guys to pack all of Chloe's belongings. They boxed everything up and delivered it to her mother's apartment building. I didn't go. Mia was still staying with her grandmother for the time being. I visited her twice a week, taking her to the park or out for ice cream, doing my best to shield her from a storm. But kids are perceptive. She never mentioned Uncle Chase again, but sometimes she would wrap her arms around my neck and ask, "Daddy, are you and Mommy fighting? Are you still going to play with me together?" Mommy and Daddy are working some things out. I tell her, "But we both love you more than anything." The divorce was officially filed with the court. The hearing was set for a month out. In the meantime, it was a battle of motions and evidence disclosures between the lawyers. Chloe's side was busy. She started reaching out to a couple of our company's earliest employees, trying to dig up any dirt she could find on me, looking for financial or operational misconduct. Both employees told me about it immediately. Her mother somehow got in touch with a distant cousin of mine from my hometown, trying to use family ties to pressure me. I took the call and told my cousin, politely but firmly, to stay out of it. The more they struggled, the more I knew I couldn't afford to be sentimental. Rob warned me to be prepared for a desperate, last-ditch effort, like a public smear campaign or something extreme related to Mia's custody. I started communicating more with Mia's preschool teachers to ensure she was always safe. I also began compiling all the evidence of my fitness as a parent: stable income and housing, a clear educational philosophy, and documentation of Chloe's recent erratic behavior, including notarized transcripts of her screaming voicemails that could negatively impact a child. A week before the court date, Chloe buckled. Her lawyer sent a message to Rob, saying she wanted to talk to me alone. Rob thought it over. It can't hurt to meet, see what her final play is, but do it in a public place, and either have a witness or record the entire conversation. We agreed to meet in a private booth at a coffee shop. I got there early and started a voice memo on my phone, which I slipped into the inside pocket of my jacket. Chloe arrived looking like she had aged 10 years in a month. She was thin and haggard, and no amount of makeup could hide the puffiness around her eyes. She sat down and stared at me, her expression a mixture of hatred and exhausted despair. "You're a real bastard, Ryan," she said, her voice hoarse. I didn't respond. I waited. "Are you really going to do this? Leave me with nothing? Take Mia away from me?" The division of assets in the agreement is based on what the law allows, given your actions. As for Mia, I will fight for full custody because I believe I can provide a better, more stable environment for her, I said calmly. This isn't about being cruel. It's about setting things right. Setting things right? Her voice rose. "We were married for 10 years. Doesn't that mean anything to you? You're using a bunch of secret recordings to destroy my life. Mean anything?" I looked her in the eye. "Chloe, when you were in bed with Chase, did our marriage mean anything to you? When you and your mother were plotting to take my company's shares, did it mean anything then?" She froze, the blood draining from her face. "I didn't come here to talk about feelings," I said, leaning back. "Your lawyer said you wanted to talk. What about?" She took a few deep breaths, trying to compose herself. When she spoke again, her voice was pleading. "Ryan, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm so sorry. Can we not get a divorce? Or if we do, please, don't leave me with nothing. Don't take Mia. I'll do anything. I'll never, ever do anything like this again. For Mia's sake." She started to cry, real tears this time, but it was too late. "Chloe," I said slowly, "some mistakes can't be undone. Some roads, once you take them, you can't go back. The divorce is happening. Assets and custody will be decided by the court. If you really care about Mia, you'll cooperate with the process and minimize the damage to her. The plea in her eyes died, replaced by a look of pure, cold venom. Fine, she hissed, standing up so quickly her chair nearly tipped over. Fina, Ryan Miller, don't you dare regret this. She grabbed her purse and stumbled out of the booth. This isn't over. I sat there and slowly finished my cold coffee. In my pocket, my phone was still silently recording. I knew she wouldn't give up. The final courtroom battle wouldn't be easy, but my chain of evidence was unbreakable, and my resolve was like steel. Whatever storm she tried to stir up next, I'd be ready. I paid the bill and left. The sun was shining. People were rushing by on the sidewalk, each living their own life. My life had been turned upside down, but I was no longer the blind, suffering husband. I was the plaintiff. I was a father, and I was a man who had to clear the path for my daughter's future and my own. Next stop, the courthouse. The day of the hearing was overcast. I arrived half an hour early. Rob was already there, going over last-minute details with me in a small meeting room. Their lawyer just submitted a new filing, he said, looking sharp in his suit. They're trying to argue that your long work hours and emotional distance were the primary cause of the marriage's failure. They even included a few staged photos of Chloe sitting alone in the dark, supposedly waiting for you to come home. The timestamps are all from last week. It's sloppy. I expected as much, I said. That must have been what she meant by this isn't over. They'll also try to play the sympathy card. 10 years of marriage, you're the father of her child. To sway the judge on asset division and custody, Rob continued, adjusting his glasses. But our evidence is ironclad. The conspiracy to commit financial fraud is our ace in the hole. It was time. We walked into the courtroom. It was smaller than I'd imagined, and the air was cool and formal. Chloe and her lawyer were already there. She was wearing a plain, conservative dress, her eyes downcast, trying to look vulnerable. Her mother sat in the front row of the gallery, her face a tight mask of anger, staring daggers at me. On my side, Al and two of my senior employees were there for support. The judge entered, and the proceedings began. As expected, Chloe's lawyer opened by trying to paint a picture of a mutual breakdown, accusing me of neglect and emotional abuse, and dismissing my evidence as a calculated plot and an illegal invasion of privacy. He presented the staged photos, describing Chloe's supposed loneliness and despair. On cue, Chloe dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. When it was our turn, Rob stood up, his voice calm and methodical. He didn't get drawn into a debate about feelings. He went straight to the facts. Your Honor, the core of this case is not a simple marital dispute. It is about the respondent, Ms. Chloe Miller, engaging in an extramarital affair and, based on that, conspiring with her mother and a third party, Mr. Chase Carter, to defraud my client of a share of the marital assets. The emotional breakdown of the marriage was a consequence of her actions, not the cause. He then began to present our evidence, submitting a neatly bound evidence book to the judge. First, the proof of the affair, hotel records, the photos of them together, flight information, and excerpts from their text messages, all legally notarized. The timeline was airtight. Second, the proof of conspiracy to commit fraud, the audio transcripts of Chloe discussing the plan to take half the company assets after the funding round, along with the corresponding audio clips. He pointed out that the recordings were made in a common area of my own home and recovered from her own cloud backup. I saw my mother-in-law flinch when she heard her own voice being described. Chloe's shoulders trembled. Third, the matter of custody. I submitted my financial statements, proof of home ownership, photos and videos of me with Mia, and my correspondence with her teachers. This was contrasted with evidence of Chloe's recent instability, including the recordings of her unhinged, screaming voicemails. Rob concluded his presentation. Your Honor, based on the respondent's clear and malicious fault, we ask the court to award my client a greater share of the marital assets. Furthermore, given the respondent's current instability, we request that full physical custody of their daughter, Mia Miller, be granted to my client. During the final arguments, Chloe's lawyer tried one last time, pleading for leniency, emphasizing the 10-year marriage and the needs of the child. Then, Chloe asked to speak. The judge allowed it. She stood, tears streaming down her face. Your Honor, I know I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But I was lost and I'm so sorry. Ryan and I have a decade together. We have a beautiful daughter. Please, I'm begging you, give me a chance to fix this. Don't tear our family apart. She was so overcome, she could barely stand. The courtroom was silent, but for her sobs. The judge watched her, his expression unreadable. When she was done, he looked at me. Plaintiff, your final statement. I stood up and faced the judge, not looking at Chloe. Your Honor, I stand by my petition. For 10 years, I believe I fulfill my duties as a husband and a father. I worked tirelessly to build a company to provide a better life for my family. In return, I received betrayal, deceit, and conspiracy. My voice was steady. Feelings can fade. If she no longer loved me, she could have been honest. We could have separated with dignity. But to use the pretense of a marriage to cheat, and then to conspire with others to steal from me, that is a line that can never be uncrossed. As for my daughter, I love her more than anything. I will provide her with the best, most stable, and most honest home I can. I believe it is far better for her than a home built on lies. I have nothing further to say. I sat down. My hands were sweating, but my mind was clear. The judge declared the court in recess. A decision would be announced at a later date. As we walked out, a light rain began to fall. Chloe and her mother rushed past, shielded by their lawyer, without looking back. Al came over and clapped me on the shoulder. You were solid. The judge has to see it. Rob was optimistic, but cautious. Our evidence was overwhelming, especially the financial conspiracy part. We have a strong case. Now we wait. A week later, the judgment came. The divorce was granted. In the division of marital assets, I was awarded 80%. Chloe received 20%, consisting mostly of her personal savings and jewelry. The house was awarded to me. I was granted full physical and legal custody of our daughter, Mia. Chloe was granted visitation rights twice a month. She was also ordered to pay all court costs. The ruling was even more decisive than I had hoped. The law had sided with the evidence. Rob told me they had 15 days to appeal, but he doubted they would. I drove to the preschool to pick up Mia. She ran into my arms, chattering about a new song she had learned. I took her to her favorite pizza place. Watching her laugh, so carefree, the knot of hardness inside me finally began to soften. That night, after she was asleep, I stood out on the balcony. The rain had stopped, and the night sky was clear. My phone rang. An unknown number. I answered. Ryan, I got the judgment. It was Chloe. Her voice was dry and eerily calm. You won. You won everything. I said nothing. I'm leaving the city, she said. My mom. She can't stay here either. Mia? Take good care of her. I'm not going to fight anymore. Okay, I said. Ryan, she said, her voice barely a whisper. If I had never. Don't, I said, cutting her off. There are no what-ifs. I hung up the phone and stood on the balcony for a long time. There are no do-overs in life. You pick a road and you walk it.